All right, good evening. Time being 7 p.m., all members of the planning board being present, call this meeting to order. Just in case there's anybody in the audience that's here for agenda item C, 15 and 41 Astle Street, the applicant has requested that that be continued to our June 2nd meeting, which we will do when we get there. So that means nothing will be heard on that this evening. And if that's what you're here for, you are free to go home. You will not miss anything. With that,
You guys have some questions? Oh, okay.
moving on to agenda item A, approval of minutes from the March 10th, 2025 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for March 10th, 2025.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Moving on to agenda item B, committee reports, administrative actions. Committee reports, 1660, well, actually, just in case anybody else, because that one's longer. So does anybody other than Mr. Fattalia have any committee reports they wish to make?
Nothing here, Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good. Then we'll go to 1660 Main Street update.
All right. So, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to give everybody an update on where some of the money from the Affordable Housing Trust goes. And one of those projects is the 1660 Main Street, also, known as the Soldier On building. All right, so see Mr. Hanley in the building here. He was part of that project, and it came out great. So here's a picture of the outside of the building here, some of the rear view pictures as far as how it went up. It was a very tough build with Soldier On putting some extra money in because of water issues in there. So originally the land was donated by Mark Ginsburg to Tewksbury Home Build, which I'm a part of, and we in turn partnered with Soldier On to do a veterans building in Tewksbury. So hence this building came to be. They got federal funding, they got state funding, they got money from the town of Tewksbury, from the Affordable Housing Trust. They got donations from John Bon Jovi. They got donations from Robert Kraft, and they finally got enough money to get the project underway. So today it's fully occupied. There's 21 affordable units in the building, 18 one-bedroom units. There's 3 studio apartments in the building, and all buildings are handicap accessible. So the units, here's a picture of one of the kitchens here. They come fully furnished. So Soldier On provides, all you need to do is walk in the building with your clothes, and you have a complete unit to walk into. It's fully furnished with bedrooms, living room, kitchen appliances, TVs, all your utensils you need for a kitchen. So again, it's walk in, and Soldier On provided all that furniture and the utensils and so forth with money they raised and through donations from a lot of Tewksbury residents. It's a thing put out on Facebook. If you want to donate, you can go to Amazon, buy some of the products they need, and a lot of Tewksbury residents did that and donated to the veterans in Tewksbury. So it was a great cause and a great process. Now it's finally fully occupied. So we have 21 veterans in there occupying the units. So Soldier On, part of the process that Soldier On does is they fully furnish the building. All right, they provide any tenant that's living in the building with rides to and from doctor's appointments or any medical appointments they have. They'll provide you transportation to and from. All right. They also provide you with 1 meal a day that you can go down to the kitchen, get the meal. It's frozen. It's made in their Soldier On properties kitchen and sent to Tewksbury. It's in the freezer, and you're allowed 1 meal a day. So, but it's a great, I think, addition to town. So we were able to credit ourselves 21 units on the affordable inventory, which helped our numbers get up there. So, so with that said, I just wanted to keep everybody that maybe never get a chance to get in that building to see what it's like. The building came out great. I've been in there a number of times. There's washer dryer units in there. There's fully accessible areas out back that you can go out and sit out back. There's a case manager on site every day that handles all the veterans, any issues they have, and so forth and so on. So, so with that, I'll end. I just wanted to let you know that I think the town of Tewksbury did pretty well with this veterans building in town. So, All set, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vitale. No comments? All right, we'll move on to agenda item B2, Town Planners Report. Ms. Lauder?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First note, there are 2 new public hearings scheduled for our next meeting on May 12th, in addition to any continued public hearings from this evening, and those are 2 family suites, one at 47 Nichols Street and the other at 10 Graylock Road. Next item to note, the Greater Lowell YMCA is offering a rec camp for 6 weeks over summer vacation, running from July 7th through August 15th for children ages 7 to 13 at the Tewksbury Recreation Center over on Livingston Street. The Y will offer a variety of daily activities, including games, sports, arts and crafts, and more for kids to enjoy over the summer break. There will be outdoor activities, weather permitting. And the camp will run Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 daily. There is a 2-day minimum required for registration, but families may sign up for 2, 3, 4, or 5-day packages. Next item, on June 7th, the Historical Society is hosting its annual meeting. That's Saturday at 1 p.m. at the Tewksbury Public Library. Local historian and former Register of Deeds, Richard Howe, will be there to speak about how parts of Tewksbury were annexed to the city of Lowell, among other topics. And our town historian, Nancy Reed, along with Doug Sears, will present the Images of America Tewksbury book, which was recently published with Arcadia Publishing. And they will be sharing photographs from the book and stories to go along with them. And the books will be there available for purchase. On Tuesday, April 15th, the town celebrated the ribbon cutting for Lazy River Products, the town's first retail cannabis facility, welcoming board members, town staff, and community members to their new location at 553 Main Street. Select board members Kratman and Holland, along with Mr. Duffy, myself, the town manager, and assistant town manager were in attendance to welcome them to our community. And finally, the town has created an informational webpage regarding the proposed battery storage facility at 73 Hillman Street. So for folks interested in more information on that, they can go to www.tewksbury-ma.gov/battery storage for more information. Makes it a little easier to get to than the state siting board. And happy to answer any questions on any of that.
Well, I have a question, Ms. Lauder, if I could.
Yes.
I had been asked a question, and I thought I had answered correctly, but hopefully you can verify that. The question was similarly to the battery storage facility that's proposed down on Hillman Street, and why it's on the agenda for part of the warrant article that's coming up. And was that done in conjunction, or was it done separately without even knowing that they were coming in? So maybe you can answer that.
Sure. So the warrant article to allow battery storage facilities by special permit is unrelated and does not affect the current proposal for 73 Hillman Street. 73 Hillman Street has filed with the Energy Facilities Siting Board at the state level because it is not in our current zoning. So they are filing for a Section 3 exemption, which means other uses that are exempt from zoning that we know about, like daycares and school facilities and things like that. We saw it with the Melmark facility that came in last year. Battery storage facilities are not expressly mentioned under Section 3. However, the state has created a pathway at the state level under the Energy Facility Siting Board to allow for people to petition for the same type of zoning protections when something is not in a municipality's bylaw. So they are two, it did come up because more and more companies have been reaching out asking to do it, but it was not precipitated by this development specifically. And these folks had started their process at the state level before this was even thought of.
Okay, I had thought that, and I knew it wasn't done in conjunction, and just something, another use for that any particular area that's looking for it in town, correct? Thank you.
Please.
So I think a key point that for what you just said, though, that I think everybody should understand, because by connecting these two things up, we may actually shoot ourselves in the foot, in that one of the reasons they're at the state level trying to do this is because we do not have a bylaw that addresses this.
Correct.
Had we had one, which is what this bylaw will do, that may not have been an option. They would have had to come here, and then we would have been the ones dealing with it, and not the state level. So I really hope all the folks that are upset about this or whatever can understand the difference of those two things. The bylaw is something for us. We don't currently have something to deal with this. This will give us a way to deal with that. And the second piece being the process they're using right now might not be an option for them or another one. They're already in that process. I don't know they'll get pulled out, and it wouldn't allow someone else to potentially do it that way. They'd have to come here and go through our process and come before us. So detaching those two things is actually important, I think, for everyone to understand, and not come into town meeting looking to shoot down the bylaw, because it doesn't actually have anything to do with the project that people are upset about. It may actually only hurt the town to not have a bylaw on the books that deals with this issue directly. So I just hope everybody can understand that those two things are not linked, and that the bylaw itself is a separate issue and something that is potentially very beneficial to the town for these kind of things going forward, so that we have the ability to be the ones who are dealing with that petition, and not necessarily the state then saying they don't have to deal with us. So I just want to make sure that that's clear for everybody as best we can, so we can hopefully get that done at town meeting. Administrative actions are not typically a conversation, but, there are a couple of people in here, so if you have some question or comment, go ahead. Go ahead. No.
Excuse me. You have to speak
The guy
about-
behind you, I'm sorry, he was raising his hand, so I got to stop there, if that's all right. Only because there's just been so many people that have been talking about this, but
Yeah, Jack Quinn, 51 Emerald Court. Is that whole process going to be outside of this board? So the fact that we have, okay, go ahead.
Well, so it's just, right now, the way they're dealing with it is at the state level. And the reason they're doing that is because we don't have that as an option here, as a bylaw specifically regarding that issue. I do not believe, now that they've started the process, that they would get pulled out of that once the bylaw is passed. But anyone else after that, if we create the bylaw, would have more likely have to come deal with us, as opposed to just automatically going to the state.
So all the approvals and everything will be through the state. You will not be involved in that.
I would, if they're going to let them go forward with it, the state's basically going to exempt them from dealing with us.
So
Yes.
this is a generic bylaw to protect the future. It doesn't impact this, doesn't aid it or
yes.
doesn't hurt it.
Exactly. I think that's a very good way to put it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Did someone else have a question? If you do, you got to come up, only because we got to get it on the microphone. Gesundheit.
I'm Jean Ciro. I live at 1320 Emerald Court, and we've been extremely busy for a few weeks on this project of the battery storage, and we're all very concerned. And we've literally been told by someone in the town that we have no chance of getting the decision to build it turned down, that it's a done deal. And we have some real concerns about that. And I think we're going to be having other meetings, but we are really concerned about it, and concerned that the town didn't have that choice, and why was it a secret until they'd made that movement. So, there's a lot of people that are suspicious of what's going on with the town and their response to this.
When you say secret, just so we're clear, like,
That it
not
was
a secret from the towns.
No one, first of all, I don't know how many people in the town of Andover has known about this without us going out on the street the other day and also getting the word out. That nobody knew about this project.
I apologize, but did you mean the town of Tewksbury?
Yes.
You said Andover. That's why I was confused. You threw me off a
I used to
little.
live in Andover, and I
All
got
right.
confused. I'm
Well,
sorry.
you're
But
in a better
everyone-
place now, so.
People are very suspicious of what's going on. And that's not a good thing for the town to have that
Well,
reputation.
To
So-
your point, I think this is another reason why I hope, when you go back and you speak to people that, you've been talking with and that are concerned about this, that you help convey the message that passing the bylaw would be beneficial to the town to give us that
Well, in
ability.
the future, but not for us.
Well, I understand, but now it's at a state level, and that's beyond us. So your issue with that one right now, because of the way it's going through the process, is really with your state representatives and the state, not the town level, because we're really not involved
Okay, I
in it.
understand that.
But
I
going forward, we
understand.
could hopefully be involved in any of these that go on in the future, provided we can, get a bylaw on the books.
I
that-
appreciate that.
All right? All right.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
good, thank you. And we'll forgive you for previously living in a town that shall not be named. All right, everybody else good on that one?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If these guys are all set, I'd just like to backtrack and comment on Mr. Fatalia's report there, if I could.
Absolutely.
An excellent report, Mr. Fatalia. So I know that Soldier On, you have a fundraiser coming up in the not-too-distant future here, right?
Yep.
Now, I just want to say that last year, I was fortunate enough, I had, my son-in-law won a raffle there. And it was a raffle of a tour, for a walking tour for 15 people at Arlington National Cemetery, put on by a retired colonel. And it was just an extraordinary tour. And we were able to take my grandkids into the, underneath where the soldiers get ready to, at the tomb. They showed them their show rifles and pistols, and it was just an excellent experience. So I hope we win it again this year. We'll be putting a lot of money in the raffle jar.
You're not going to win it, Jim. I'm going to put it for
But anyways, I just wanted to say that you guys, it's a top-notch operation, and it's not just local, it's around the country. It was Colonel Dave Sutherland was his name, and who I know is very involved in this now. And he was a 30-year military vet, battalion commander, and he had a lot to say about the Arlington Cemetery and all the other features on there. So thanks again, and hopefully, and good luck. We'll be there at the next fundraiser.
Great. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so with that, we'll move to agenda item B3, board member committee designations. So we've got 3 designations on our books right now, which are Community Preservation Committee, Economic Development Committee, and NEMCOG. As of right now, we have Mr. Vitalia on Community Preservation, myself on Economic Development, and Mr. Duffy on NEMCOG. So unless there are any requests or changes.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do NEMCOG, Mr. Chairman, so.
All right, okay.
I'd like to stay on my committee, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so we have 2 other members. Would either of the other members like to be on the NEMCOG meeting, committee?
Can't really say without knowing more about what's involved. And this year in particular might be very tough for me, so I can't in good conscience yet put my name forward.
Mr. Chairman, I can offer some background on the function of the NIMCOG Council, if that's helpful.
Sure.
I do want to note one quick thing. Folks who are speaking in the audience, we can hear you across the room. Excuse me, sir. It's echoing across the whole room. If you're going to have a conversation, if you could just step outside of the room. Mr. Fowler should know better. Thank you. So the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments is a group of 9 municipalities, of which Tewksbury is one of them, that comes together under the Regional Planning Agency to make decisions about projects on the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan, locally and at the state level. Talks about initiatives surrounding regional planning issues such as ADUs and things like that. So they're the folks who are providing funding for technical assistance to help with the open space plan and the upcoming master plan update. So being a part of that group is really just being a part of the decision makers, and there's representatives from the select board and the planning board from each of those communities. They meet once a month. I go to those meetings sometimes. They're fun, and it's you can participate virtually. You're not required to go to their offices in Lowell. So if you're still too busy, that's fine, but I just wanted to be able to give some color about what the responsibility entails.
Thank you.
All right, so what we'll do, why don't we just do reappointments to the other 2, and we'll leave the other one for one more meeting and see if we can't, see if anybody will get on board with that one, and we'll figure it out. All right, so then we have a motion to reappoint Mr. Vitalia to Community Preservation and myself to Economic Development.
So moved.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries, and we will table the NEMCOG one for a future meeting. All right, that brings us to agenda item C, which is 1541 Astle Street. The petitioner requesting that this be continued until our June 2nd meeting. So that's a couple of meetings away. I presume 7 p.m.?
Correct.
So I have a motion to continue this till 7 p.m. on June 2nd.
So moved.
A motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous. That brings us to agenda item D, 485 Main Street. This is continued from our 4-7 meeting. Do you have any? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I'd like to recuse myself from this.
All right, very good. Then Mr. Fuchsia will recuse herself, and we will bring her back in when we're done with this hearing. All right, once you guys are settled, the floor is yours. Just state your names for the record, please.
Good evening, board members. George Atala, Labra Engineering and Design.
Isra Ismail, civil engineer and design.
All right, the floor is yours.
All right, a few weeks ago, probably more than 2 weeks, we submitted the updated package for the civil drawings for this project, and basically we also submitted a cover letter that explain about the waivers that is required for that are required for that project. We were expecting that we received some comments back from the GCG, but we haven't received anything from them. I heard that there is kind of circumstances there that delay their responses. Today we are just going to discuss those waivers and see if you have any comments on that. We probably propose 5 waivers for that project.
All right.
Yeah, the first waiver is waiver from section 617 to allow aisle width to be less than 24 feet for 90-degree angle parking. Due to site area limitation, the proposed aisle is 18.5 feet. So the existing building with current parking spaces has been commercially used for many years, and the only proposed alteration on the site is the addition of 1 residential floor unit that requires 2 residential parking spaces, which are provided in the garage. So basically we have total of 5 parking spaces. But that waiver specifically for the aisle width to be 18.5 instead of 24 feet. So. The second waiver is waiver from section 6111C to allow the new pavement to be within the 10 feet setback. The proposed new pavement setback along Main Street has been reduced to allow for 18.5 feet aisle width for parking area. So also similarly for waiver from to allow the proposed southeastern new pavement area to be within the 10 feet lot line to align with the existing pavement, which is already within the 10 feet setback. Waiver 3 is for tree removal of the existing 40-inch maple tree in the front yard and the 40-inch maple at the southeastern property lot corner. So for the front tree, we are going to remove this to allow for the proposed 18.5 aisle for the cars. And we actually proposed a landscaping planning for that front area. And regarding the tree on the back that need to be removed, this one also, we are going to propose a new tree instead of that one, just to, because it's in bad condition at this time. Waiver number 4, also regarding the dumpster unit with the truck access to the dumpster is not achievable. I tried to use kind of CAD or AutoCAD modeling to evaluate the truck path to that dumpster, and it did not work due to the site limitation. So in this regard, we are proposing to a waiver from the dumpster unit. So the current business owner transports the business trash off-site. We also probably requesting that waiver in order to, because we don't have enough adequate area for that dumpster backyard. Waiver number 5 regarding the number of parking spaces. On the first floor, the commercial use will be reduced to 600 square feet. So as shown on the architectural drawings, the remaining areas on the first floor will be used as open space, storage, and parking garage for residential unit. So basically, we will have 3 parking spaces for commercial and 2 for residential, with total of 5 spaces. As required by the zoning law also, in addition to that, the existing building with current parking spaces has been commercially used for many years, using the same the same parking spot for many years. So the only proposed alteration here, we will have the addition of 1 residential unit that requires 2 residential parking spaces, which we provided in the garage. So that's a summary of the 5 waivers that we asking for.
All right. Start with Mr. Champa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess the number and requirements for the waivers are a little bit of a concern because you have a commercial enterprise going on there and it functions now. I'm not sure it's 100% compliant with the current bylaws, just looking at the current siting and whatnot. So some of this is just trying to continue what's already there. But by adding the residential, it seems like you're kind of trying to get for yourself or get for this property the best of both worlds without having to actually adhere to the requirements of either. Not fully anyway, I mean largely, but not fully. You know, things like drive lanes and whatnot, to me, those speak to something very important because they equate to pedestrian safety, driver safety in terms of having sight lines, the adequate ability to pull out, pull in without interfering with other vehicles or someone else that might be walking in the area or driving, pulling into the lot. The dumpster one, I don't really have an issue with that, except I'm not really sure how we can monitor, whether or not the trash is being removed in a commercial fashion and not just put into the residential bins. I'm sure there's some kind of bylaw in the town that commercial properties are not allowed to put their trash into residential pickup containers, which again goes to my point as far as, trying to get the benefits of both uses without fully having to adhere to either one. And then basically we're really squeezing a lot of building into the amount of usable area that we have, which is causing some issues with your setbacks and pavement being within setback limits, things like that. So, so I guess, one of the things that we used to say this a lot, I guess we haven't had much occasion to say it recently, is, it's okay to come to us and ask for waivers because it's something that makes the property better or maybe would have been inconsequential or not applicable or something like that. But we typically would ask, we would like to see a plan, we would like to see some kind of exhibit showing what does a compliant property look like? What would this look like if you complied with everything that you're asking for a waiver from? And then from there, we work backwards and say, no, okay, I can now see why this wouldn't really work and we should maybe grant that waiver. So what I'm seeing here is you're asking for waivers because with the minimal amount of space that you have, if you make anything in here any bigger, you literally can't drive in and out of the site. I'm already not convinced that you can get in and out of the site safely due to the proximity of the Route 38, the curb cuts coming in, visibility sight lines, things like that. And then I know, Mr. Duffy, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder on this one, but we're taking down some very nice shade trees and putting up a little something in their place. And so, that's something that we've certainly pushed back on in the past. So generally, I guess, I see what you're doing here. I know we've been back and forth, and you've been back and forth with peer review at least twice now.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the waivers themselves, to me, at this point, it just seems like you're trying to fit in what you can and not necessarily what the site requires. So before I feel comfortable signing off on the waivers, I would want to see what a compliant plan looks like and see what the hindrances are between that and this. Is it a matter of, you have a minimum number of spaces? If you made them compliant spaces, then you couldn't reach that minimum number. Well, there's a reason why we have minimums and we have compliance, because that's what's required to make the site operate properly and safely. So that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and copy that, Mr. Champa. I mean, most of what Mr. Champa is talking about is, we feel the same way about it. You're trying to squeeze, squeeze a lot into that project. Not that all by itself is a bad thing, but when you try to squeeze and things don't fit, and then you have to come back and say, well, hey, we can't empty the trash because we don't have the room for it, and so on and so forth. Something is going to give along the way here. So I'm going to leave that. That's my opinion on the waivers on all of them. So I think we got to take another look at those. So, but I have a number of other issues with the plans too. So, it looks like, they could be in a decent set of plans. Maybe I know somebody is probably trying to comply, and I think, generally speaking, from my opinion, I think it's a great idea to have a family business and be able to live there. I think that would be fantastic. But something has to give here. So I'm just going to say, let me just start out with a couple of questions, and I can get these to you later on. Like you were looking for a sign waiver. So eventually you're going to put a sign up there somewhere. So we have occasionally, what happens is, and I know another one of your requirements down the line here somewhere is to provide a set of drawings that shows an as-built. That has to be, or a temporary as-built. So part of my concern is there's so much going on there. Are you going to be able to put the sign in? You have to know. Everybody that works on that site needs to know where the underground mechanical equipment is. Where the piping is, and so on and so forth. So that is, and you're on Route 38. That's going to be an expensive as-built for you guys. Should you get to that and not have your sign permit. So you're asking for a waiver that's really going to cost you some money at the end of the day by not being able to have a complete as-built.
We are not asking for a waiver for an as-built.
No, you're looking for a waiver for the sign.
The sign, we are going to provide the signage, but we cannot put the sign pole on the front because we need to maintain enough distance for the aisle. So we are going to put the sign on the building, on the wall of the building. So there is no freestanding sign on the
Okay, well, I guess we would have no way of knowing that based on the information that I have in front of me here. Okay? So all I'm saying is that there's a lot going to be going on there, and I think so. Let's just hold that thought, okay? We need to confirm the state highway access permit, right?
Yeah, so we've been in communication with Mass DOT, and we asked them if we need at this time to have a permit from them. So they said this is a separate thing. You need to do that before construction. The thing is that I provide them with all the drawings, and we explain that all the drainage, so they're concerned about the drainage. So all the drainage are going to contain on-site because we are going to propose a trench or catch basin at the front. So all the runoff from the stormwater events can be catched on-site. So there is no any additional runoff coming to Main Street or to any structures regarding to Mass DOT. So the thing is that they said yes, but then because we are going to close one of the opening, we have two openings now. So we are going to close one of the opening and just propose just one entrance to the site. So they said we need a permit, but not at this time before the construction. So
okay, so again, hold that thought. So, and then this is in one of the general notes on the plans. It calls for, and this is to Mr. Champa's point, you know, it's calling for the IRC code to be used on this project, right? Even though there is a commercial component. So I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I know that sometimes when you build a salon, you know, that there are certain other requirements from the fire department for your pads and your seating and so on and so forth. So I think I would like to see something along those lines, you know, to see if there is such a requirement, you know, on your materials that go in your building. So, because that could be a stopping point. As far as which code, that's certainly up to the building inspector, okay? I'm a little concerned, and probably another question for the building inspector. You know, one of the notes in the plans are calling for half-inch drywall in the ceiling. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, are we trying to separate two sort of use groups here? You know, you have a commercial component with the salon, but then you have a residential unit upstairs. And you know, is there, you know, should there be a higher firewall construction in between the commercial and the residential unit? Okay,
So-
that's something to ask the building inspector, you know?
So yeah, exactly. There's the requirement for firewall separation. Usually do it by gypsum board, for 1 hour fire separation.
Okay, so that's not half-inch. All I'm just saying, that's what's on the notes on the plans that I looked at. Okay, so you might want to just double-check with that. Okay? And again, another building code thing, if you look at page A203, it will show a couple of roof ridge details in the framing plan, and there's a couple of other locations, and it just doesn't show any ventilation. And it does show insulation horizontally in there, but it doesn't show any ventilation into the attic, which would mean like a ridge vent and a soffit vent.
Regarding the architectural drawings?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on your drawings that I have to look at today. So you might want to take a peek at that. Another thing that I can't seem to find on these plans is like a second egress out of the space. I don't really see that unless you're going into the back, you know, the stairs down into the garage, and then having a door maybe out of there. I just don't see on the plans. I don't see a second egress.
There's a garage to the door and garage to the front.
And we've already had a developer here in this room who threw his hands up and said, "Oh my God, the architect was from New Hampshire. We didn't know." So as far as I know, you have to have two means of egress out of that first floor space. So you might want to check on that.
Sure.
Let's see. And then I'm looking at doors, the number of the doors, D1 on your plan. It looks like it's the door to nowhere. And I can't figure out that detail because it's kind of obscured on the floor plan. So you want to take a look at that and make sure that, you know, and again, I guess that sort of feeds into that is the other plan, the new landscape plan that you sent. Shows a sidewalk going around the back, but it doesn't show it going anywhere. Or it doesn't show a door or you know, it just shows the sidewalk going around along the backside of the building, and that's it. It doesn't show anything else. It doesn't show where it comes from or where it goes to. It just hugs the building.
Yeah, the sidewalk is connected to a paved area. Already it's paved backyard, so that's how to allow for movement around.
It lacks some detail, though, probably, you know, there's some detail missing on the back there for sure. Let's see. So there's two different sets of plans, S102 and S103. One of those plans, those are your structural drawings,
Yep.
shows no stairs going from the first to the second floor, but yet the other plan does. So you need a little clarification there. And I guess if I could see a rear elevation on the S102 plan that shows that sidewalk or the landscape plan, I guess it would kind of clarify what's going on in the back there. Yeah, I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you going to provide these written?
You sure? We'll give you whatever you like, right?
Mr.
You
Vitale.
want me to give you what we just talked about there?
Yeah, if you have any written comments, you can.
Yeah,
If you don't mind.
sure.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a couple questions. I was hoping to get the letter from GC as well, associates, to see what they said about the site as well, but we don't have those. So we'll probably have them for next meeting, I'm sure. All right, the peer review.
Yeah.
Right, so you don't have them, we don't have them either. So, but they have to be up to snuff and okay before we even okay the process and the permit. So you know that, right? So not something I'm not telling you, so. So some of my concerns are parking, all right, and the dumpster, and for two reasons. Because if for some reason you guys decide to close up shop and leave, now we have a commercial space with residential space that doesn't have a dumpster and no space for it, and not enough parking per se for those two entities. You hear what I'm saying?
I understand.
Okay, so, but I mean, you're saying you're gonna take the commercial off the site, all right? You're gonna
Right now,
dispose of
that's
it somewhere else, right?
What they do right now, that's what they do right now.
They do it right now?
The existing business, that's what they do right now. They take their trash off-site.
Okay, all right. So those are some of my concerns as well. So is there one business there now, just the hair salon?
Right now, there's one business, it's going to remain, but smaller footprint.
So yeah,
smaller
the area of the business has been reduced by probably 40%. So instead of two station, now we have one station. That's why we are talking about the, less number for the parking spots. So because the area now is going to be different in the proposed drawing. So yeah, now it's 600. It was 1,100 square feet, so now it's 600.
Okay.
So yeah.
So just a note here, existing building right now, it does not meet the new codes right now.
Right.
If there's a business operating for many years, it does not meet any new codes. So now we are reducing the business footprint, and we want to take the residential unit. So we are given and taken. It's not
So
like
already the setback are not aligned with the zoning, and so.
Yeah, but that's your responsibility to bring it up to the new building code. You know, that's part of the development process.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, who is Superstar Ice Cream?
Superstar ice cream. What's that?
No?
It's a friend of mine.
Okay. Do they run out of your shop as well? Because there were two.
No, he's just like, he went on vacation. If they saw the truck back there, he went
Yeah,
on
well, I was by today,
and
and
he
they were.
parked it that time because before I start building the,
Okay.
or I do anything, I have a space, empty space, so I got his truck back there.
Two trucks.
Yeah, I got two trucks.
That's two spots, two parking spots. So,
Yeah, it was in the back, but it's not for business. It doesn't belong to the building. It's just like a favor for friend. He went on vacation, so
they won't be there all the time.
no.
Okay.
No, wouldn't be there.
I thought maybe you were running another business out of there as well, so that's why I questioned you.
No, it's not.
When I go by today, I'm like, I didn't know there was an ice cream store going in here
I
too.
wish I had this kind of business. I don't know.
Okay, all right. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set for now.
Okay, I'm not going to beat this thing because I think all the members have given you, some concerns. I mean, they're not wrong. There's a lot trying to squeeze into a small space. And I get why. I mean, the residential with the commercial, I get the reason for doing it. But, to go with Mr. Vitale's point is that there's a very limited use for this going forward. It can only kind of really be used the way you want to use it right now. If at any point someone no longer wants to run the hair salon, there's not really a whole lot you're going to be able to do with that piece once the residential portion is built onto this. It limits the property very much going forward. Obviously, the intent right now is that it's going to be run as a one-station hair salon, but what happens in the event that doesn't go forever? Now what do you have? You have a very, very limited space. I'm not sure what happens to it. And, when you say, the parking's fine for 600 square feet because it's a hair salon and it's only going to have one station, that's because you're saying right now it's a hair salon with one station. What happens, what replaces it? What is that, how busy is that, whether it's 600 square feet or not? How busy is that entity, whatever that might be? So, I mean, there is some concern of squeezing what we're trying to squeeze in here, but what does that mean going forward? You know, once this is all said and done, I mean, it's fine for the present, but is that the case forever? And then what do we do, or what do you do, the next stage? You know what I mean? So that is a concern, because we're not sure what that looks like going forward. We just know what it is right now. You know, you are asking for, you know, several waivers. I get it with the, you know, the space limitations. You know, that's not new to us. You guys told us that, or been kind of telling us that as we've been going along. But now you're asking for the waivers and they're specific, so now that's why they're being discussed. But it's tight. This is really tight. I mean, it's a 3-bedroom residential unit we're trying to build on top of a relatively small commercial business to begin with that, to your own point, you couldn't do today. You know what I mean? You wouldn't get what you have there now today because it won't fit. I'm not, you know, I'm Mr. Champer. I'm not that concerned about the dumpster thing, in that you're talking about a very, very small commercial use on this property at this point. The amount of, you know, I doubt that there'd be sufficient, you know, garbage created from a one-station hair salon, you know, that's going to cause a problem if you have set pickup times or whatever to get rid of the commercial trash. I'm not that concerned with that one. But, you know, Mr. Champ is not wrong. It's a pretty tight space turned around for everybody in there, and then trying to get out on the 38. You know, I'm not saying no. You know, obviously we need to hear back from our review, see what they tell us that we should be concerned with. So I can't really go much further than that right now until we hear back from them and tell us what they think, and then we can go from there. But, you know, I think, you know, before you even got to me, you've heard some pretty, you know, specific concerns with the way this looks and what we're trying to squeeze in here. You know, so we'll see where we go from there. But, you know, I think you guys understand that this is not, it's not a slam dunk right now. Like, I think there's definitely some concerns that we got to work through going forward. So with that, I'm going to open it up to the audience. Anyone in the audience with any questions, comments, or concerns on this? All right, seeing none, bring it back to the board.
I had like one more follow-up question.
Yep.
Does the proprietor of the hair salon live in the residential, or do they live somewhere else? Meaning, are they going to be driving to work every day?
No, actually, his daughter will be operating on the second floor. She'll take over the hair salon.
Okay, so we don't need employee parking.
No, she's going to take over the hair salon.
I mean, at least currently, we don't need employee parking.
And she's going to probably doing it for many years. Probably she's going to live there. And I'm just saying for many years.
That does, I mean, you know, that probably was, maybe we missed that earlier too. That's actually, you know, it's a helpful piece of information, because we just talked about the concern about the number of parking spaces. One of the thoughts in my head, and I didn't even bother saying it out loud, is that, you know, whoever's working there needs to park there probably, unless they're riding their bike or whatever it is to work every day, which is very unlikely in like December and January, you know. So they're coming in a vehicle. If the vehicle that's on site is already on site and in the garage, then that means the spaces are available for potential customers, because while you may have one chair, typically you have another client waiting, you know, so those spaces, and, you know, you need those 3 for the people that are coming in probably for a rotation, even in a one-chair, you know, salon. So, you know, I think his question was a good question. I'm glad that it got brought up, because I think that's helpful.
I think the intent originally, probably we missed to say that the original intent was for his daughter to live on top of her business, basically. That was the original intent of this.
I mean, it doesn't completely alleviate my concern, which is what happens down the road someday, but, you know, it is something for us to factor in. It does help, I think, at least explain some of the spacing issue. That's one less car that's trying to do turnarounds on site. They're in the garage already. They're not going anywhere.
Sure.
So so we'll make a note of that anyways. So, all right, so with that, 7:05, is that what I have? 7:10, all right. So we have a motion to continue this to our 512 meeting at 7:10.
So moved.
A motion made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, we'll see you at the next one, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
going to step out for a moment and head to FinCom. I'll be right back.
Not a problem. All right, so moving on to agenda item E, 283 Pleasant Street. Heritage Villages, on behalf of the town of Tewksbury, land disturbance permit. Do we have a motion to waive the public reading?
So moved.
A motion made, do we have a second?
Second?
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. When everybody's settled, if you just give your names to the record, the floor will be yours.
Jim Hanley, Civil Design Consultants.
And Joseph Sorianello, Heritage Builders.
The floor
All
is
right.
yours, gentlemen.
Great, thank you. Again, we're here for 283 Pleasant Street for a land disturbance permit application. The project in totality includes the removal of the remains of an existing greenhouse and the construction of 2 single-family residences. I have Al Hanscom here tonight from Park Corporation, who is the LSP, that if there's any questions specific to the site work and any contamination that's out there, he'll be able to help you out and answer your questions, and Joe and Jay Sirianello with Heritage Builders. So I got maybe 3 or 4 minutes here just to kind of walk through the application, the existing conditions, proposed conditions, but just for the benefit of the board, we've been at this probably for 90 days now. Earlier in February, we filed for a variance application. You're probably familiar with the plan because you signed off on an A&R plan sometime in late February. The variance was approved, and the variance was specific to lot geometry that changed under the new zoning bylaw versus what it was prior to that, but it was a dimensional variance. We filed the land disturbance permit the last week of March. We've been in front of Conservation. We did a site walk with them in April. We got an order of conditions approved from them in middle of April. We just received the engineering review letter last Thursday for this land disturbance permit application, and we're here in front of you tonight. So I just kind of walk you through the application. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the location, but on Pleasant Street, it's virtually across the street from the high school driveway, and it has double frontage with Deborah Drive, and that's between number 70 and number 100. It's surrounded by residential units. There's remnants of 2 greenhouses as well as a 2-story structure that was originally built in 1932, and it certainly outlived its useful lifespan. So the property in totality is approximately 2.2 acres in size. Of that, approximately 23%, or 21,580 square feet, is paved or disturbed. Slopes are fairly gentle. Pleasant Street's up around elevation 134, and it drops down at Deborah, which is at elevation 118, give or take. So there's almost a 20-foot. It's like a 16-foot drop across the entirety of the property. As far as the proposed conditions, there's essentially 2 different phases with this, and we probably could have tried to cut it up to get under the 40,000 square foot that requires this permit. But since there's 2 single-family houses, there's more than 40,000 square feet if you look at both lots altogether. So phase 1 is on the board in front of you there, and it is specific to raising the existing structure, raising the greenhouse, and removing the remnants of the foundation. There's also a plan in place for soil remediation to remove some known contamination that's on site. That plan that's in front of you there to do that phase 1, there's only approximately 1 acre of disturbance. So we're just over the 40,000 square feet that triggers this permit that we're in front of you. We've taken provisions to wrap all of the disturbed area with erosion and sediment controls. And we have very little impacts within any of the wetland buffers. You can see the green area to the bottom left-hand side is where the wets are. That's our phase one, and once that work is done and the site is brought up to grade, we're basically just looking at 2 single-family house lots. So they're 2 one-acre residential lots, plus or minus. They both have a footprint area of approximately 2,800 square feet. We have very typical site grading, driveway walks, utilities, and landscaping. The impervious surface for the proposed conditions is approximately 0.3 acres, or around 13,000 square feet, which is a reduction of almost 60% compared to existing conditions. We have no impacts within the 25-foot wetland buffer, very limited impacts within 100 feet of the wetlands. Stormwater management has been addressed. We've reduced the peak flows, we've increased recharge, and we've improved water quality. And we've done that by basically removing a lot of the impervious surface, but then we also have a stone trench drain along both driveways to capture flow before it gets into the town's right of way. So where do we stand right now? Variance has been issued, the A&R has been signed, the order of conditions has been approved. We received the letter last Thursday from DPW specific to the application that's in front of you. We had an opportunity to go back and forth with them a couple of times just to make sure we're on the same page, which we are. We take no objections to any of their comments, and we're in the process of modifying the plans to address their comments. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
All right, start with Mr. Fuchsia.
So the 2 single-family homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to be sold by the town as regular homes or affordable housing?
So I'm not privy to all the discussions. Joe, you can jump in if you want, but my understanding is the town currently owns the property, and Heritage Builders has entered into an agreement to buy the property once all the permits are issued.
Okay.
Heritage Builders will then oversee and be responsible for the cleanup of the site.
Okay.
And then once that's cleaned up in the presence of an LSP to make sure that everything is done according to the state regulations, once that's done, it'll be 2 single-family houses. No affordable component. These are just 2 single-family market rate houses.
Okay. No more questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Battaglia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Hanley, no issues with this letter from Mr., who was it?
Stack.
From the town, Stack?
Yeah, no issues. We read it. We went back and forth with them once or twice late last week just to make sure we're on the same page. We weren't missing anything. We're good with it. We'll make all the necessary adjustments to address their concerns.
So we issue the land disturbance permit and then you clean up?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Duffy.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just had the same thing. I was just looking at the engineer's report, and it looks like it's pretty minor stuff there that you probably would have been moving along on anyways. The test pits, I guess particularly the ones that jump out, is that something that's on your radar?
No, we've done test pits out there, right. We just, unfortunately, they just didn't get on the plan.
Okay.
So they're done. They're done in the area where they need to be. They've been witnessed by the town. Yeah, just some cleanup.
Updated, right? No, it looks like a great idea. I took a ride by there today, never even saw that place in there.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see it getting improved, so, yeah, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ciampa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess I believe this is an area, and I don't know about these properties specifically, but there have been water and flooding concerns by people in the Pillsbury Drive, Deborah Drive area. And I do see, I mean, it's hard to figure out exactly, but we have, 4, 6, 8 foot slopes coming down into the property on Pleasant Street, and then we have quite a bit of grading going down from the second property back to Deborah Drive. So I wanted to basically just ask on behalf of the abutters, are we confident that, this improvement or these improvements are not going to create issues for the abutting properties, which may already be struggling with issues, especially, with the rainy season we had last year.
No one's more familiar with that rainy season than me, that's for sure. But yeah, we're very confident in this. We put together a drainage memo that was also included as part of the information that went to DPW. The sheer fact that we're removing 60% of the existing impervious surface and putting down lumen seed to help absorb some of the water will make a minor improvement to the flow that's coming off site there.
Okay.
Yep.
And for the properties themselves, hopefully the foundations will have, over and above waterproofing protection and things like that, because a lot of water is going to be coming at those foundations. Capturing it, directing it, diverting it will be essential, I think. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
The chair is fine as well. We'll open this up to the audience. Anyone in the audience with any questions, comments, or concerns on this one? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. What is the pleasure of the board at this time?
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, we close the public hearing.
We have a motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous. As to the land disturbance permit as requested.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the land disturbance permit at 283 Pleasant Street.
All right, so the only thing, just so we're clear, that, this is with your acceptance of the comments from the town engineer that needed to be taken care of. We'll just add that on, just so we've said it out loud. All right, so there's the motion. Motion made. Do I have a second? Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous. All right, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board
Good
Member.
luck.
Hey.
Take care of that one. That brings us to agenda item F, 611 Main Street, continued from our 4/7 meeting.
I figured there was so minor, so there wasn't much.
Well, it's also connected with the town, so.
Yeah. I think this guy was the second.
Thank you. All right, appreciate it. Take care of that.
Yeah, I will. Take it easy.
Yeah.
All right, once you guys are settled, give your names for the record. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Patrick McCarty, McCarty Engineering, here tonight with Al.
Yeah, and Al Salas with Eco Auto.
All right, floor is yours, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for having us back. Quickly, as you know, we were in here last fall for the same process with a much larger building at 611. Unfortunately, finished that permitting effort, and then Al took another look at things and said, Patrick, parking for vehicles is probably more important to me than a larger building, so he asked us to modify the design for both the 611 site, which is the corner of Main and Rogers, where the existing house is now, on the right-hand side of the plan, and also to look at the actual layout of the existing parking on the left-hand side of the existing building, which was kind of a unique layout with large rectangular islands that weren't the width of parking spots, weren't the width of drive aisles. It was kind of a unique configuration. So we looked at that whole design and we relayed it out to maximize and not so much maximize, but make the parking more efficient using the existing impervious area with some minor adjustments along the edges of the parking lot. We've been back and forth with TEC on their peer review. We sent them our final letter April 15th, and they responded on April 22nd with their comments. The only items that are open are where they would defer to the board, and so Alex sent out a memo to the board on Thursday outlining those 6 items, and I think she's still down the hall at FinCom, so if the chair would allow me, I can quickly touch on those, because they all have to do with the existing parking at the 623 site. So the first is TEC comment number 2, which is no parking, no automotive sales shall locate parking within 15 feet of any property line. They count about 43 spaces within 15 feet, and they defer to the board if zoning relief is required. And those are existing spaces, and so we're proposing to maintain them as existing, so I don't see that relief is required. But again, TEC is deferring to the board. Comment number, there, Alex's number 2, which is comment number 3, is a dedicated pedestrian aisle from the existing public building to the right-of-way be provided to ensure safe pedestrian access. So we did add that to the final revised set of plans. We have some spot grades to show that it's compliant that comes from the existing concrete pad at the front of the showroom, almost perpendicular to Main Street, that ties into both the existing sidewalk and the sidewalk that we're proposing to add from the entrance around to the intersection with Rogers Street, that then picks up on the other side of Rogers Street and just basically does that radius as requested by the DPW. They also requested a couple meetings back that we don't construct a sidewalk on Rogers Street, that Al would make a payment in lieu of that to be used for sidewalks. I guess the town sidewalk fund for sidewalks in a location that's more suitable. Comment number 5 has to do with the loading and unloading, and I understand, I wasn't here, Justin that works for me was at the last meeting. I understand there was some discussion with that. Al has made sure that all of his carriers that are delivering vehicles to the property or picking up vehicles from the property know that they cannot, absolutely cannot, either load or unload on 38, which is State Highway, or on Rogers Street. They are to pull in the site as they've done for the 20 years or so that that's been an automotive dealership. So he's made sure that all of his staff and his carriers are aware of that requirement. So hopefully, and I believe you sent Alex an email.
Yeah, regarding everything regarding Rogers Street, and thank you for the comments on the receipt of that. We took care of it right away.
The next is comment number, Alex's number 4, comment number 8. In the back left corner of the lot, there's kind of a haphazard, honestly, parking area where they just put vehicles that aren't ready for display, or they're being taken to auction or waiting for service. So it's striped awkwardly, but it's only used by Al and his employees, and so we're just proposing to leave that as it is. Again, it's a pre-existing condition, no changes to the striping in that area.
That's 623 or 611?
That's on the 623,
Okay,
Mr.
yeah,
Fratelli,
right.
in the back left corner, if you pulled in.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yep. The next is comment number 9, Alex's comment number 5. We're not proposing new lighting on the 623 side. That is existing lighting to remain. We are proposing new LED shielded down lights on the 611 parcel. Just to clarify that. They were asking if we needed a photometric, but we're proposing existing to remain. And then community development comment number 4, I believe, was a duplicate of the TEC comment relative to pedestrian access to 38, which we have covered. So we believe that we've satisfied all the TEC comments. I think we've provided appropriate answers for these few remaining items. We understand that any prior conditions from the approval that was granted last fall would remain, and then the 2 new conditions, really, which number 1 states that we have to meet all the other old conditions, and number 2, there is an existing stormwater management system that we've indicated on the plans on the 623 parcel. As you all know, the property was abandoned for a number of years, and not sure how much maintenance went on even at the end of the period that Nissan was there and the period it was abandoned. So we're just going to check all the catch basins, make sure they're not full of silt, make sure the hoods aren't full of trash. We'll pop the inspection ports. We'll do an investigation of the existing system to make sure everything's good to go. So we're happy with that condition. And then lastly, Alex did forward us an email from the abutter that was just received this afternoon. I'm not even sure if the board has had the chance to see that. Relative to the building and the lighting, and this building is markedly smaller than the previously approved building. It's further away from the abutter, and all the lights on the building are shielded and aimed to the ground away from the abutting property. So just wanted to make sure that we were aware of that comment, but we feel we've addressed it. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
So just to hit on that one, so the only thing I'll say to that, because I think what you just said is accurate, in that this is smaller than the original, so from a size perspective, I'm not really sure what else we would be doing. We've already approved one bigger than this. But on the light one, I just want to make sure, we're going to make sure we note, though, that if it turns out that for any reason there's some lighting issue, we're going to make note of it, so that if we say something's going on, we need you to do something with the lights because it's still causing an issue, that you understand that, and that, I don't have a specific condition right now because I don't know that there's going to be an issue. But I just want to make sure, because the abutter has brought it up, that we're saying that, if they're shielded properly and the light is staying on site, and it's not one of those things where, it looks like it's on site, but they're still staring at a light bulb somehow, that, we may call up and say, we want to talk about this because, the reality of it is different than the specs.
Exactly.
All right? Okay.
I'd like to refer to that as be a good neighbor condition.
I feel that sounds good. We like that. We'll
I
go
may
with that.
offer a suggestion. Coming from an electrical contracting background, there's probably only one light that will actually affect the neighbors in question. So my suggestion might be, before doing permanent installation, buying the whole collection of lights that are going back there, maybe get one light, do a mock-up, leave it on overnight with the shielding at the correct height, but not fully installed onto the masonry or anything, and just, kind of do a one-night trial run, get some feedback from the neighbor, and, if it's fair and honest feedback, you can work with that. And that'll tell you, before having to do any major rework or anything like that.
Right.
And certainly before it becomes a problem where they try to go to the town and have the town step in. So just my suggestion, just something that we've done a lot of times when it comes to exterior lighting. Things look very, very different on a plan and happen very differently on a plan or on a two-dimensional elevation than they work in real life. Maybe there's a tree there, maybe it's not over here, maybe there's the bedroom is here and the kitchen is there, so nobody's in the kitchen at night, who cares? So just a helpful suggestion, hopefully.
Yes, makes perfect sense. And just for the board's clarification, we do not have any light fixtures at all shown on the back of the building. There's one on the Rogers Street side, and it's 2/3 of the way towards the front.
Okay.
So,
The only thing I'd ask about that is because I thought we had a conversation, because there was some concern from the neighbors that they didn't want there to be any problems behind the building. So I thought there was going to be some sort of lighting back there to make sure that that didn't happen.
We did talk about I forget the name, but it was a ball that was
just so that's clear, because we are looking for something that's going to make it so that people aren't walking back behind the building and then no one sees what's, you know what I mean? And then that becomes its own problem.
Exactly.
But, so as long as that, as long as it doesn't need to be, lighting for the business, it's more a matter of a security lighting issue for the area to make sure, it's safe, but not,
happy to do that.
intrusive to anybody, if that makes sense. Yeah, all right. 'Cause I had a feeling we were going to done the same thing.
Oh, yeah, we did.
But since you started, we'll keep going, Mr. Champion, if you have anything else.
Okay. I'm sorry, were you all set?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I don't know if I've told you in the past, so I do have two businesses. One is McCarty Engineering, that's before you this evening. My other one is McCarty Associates, where we self-perform site work and build the building. So the man sitting in front of you this evening agreeing to these conditions will be the one putting up the building. So it won't slip through the cracks.
Very good.
Okay. So the back right corner of 611 Main Street, showing some new trees, new fencing and all that, but also the sewer line is right there.
Correct.
So we're going to approve this plan and we're going to say, okay, I have 5 trees and then I have 3 other trees. I want those trees and I want them right where you show them.
Yes.
And then when you dig and you find a sewer line and you say, oh, we can't put the trees where we said we were going to, now there's not enough room between the sewer line and the fence, we can't put in the trees, we want to take them out. Now we're going to be like, how did you not think that, we need to look at that? So
No, so fortunately,
I know there's no way to figure that out now. You haven't done.
So sewer is much easier. If it was a water line, Maybe you could locate it, unless it was transite, then it would be a best guess. Sewer fortunately goes straight line from manhole to manhole, which we have the 2 manholes. So one in Roger Street and one about at the back of that abutter's property. So we do know where that sewer line is, and so our landscape architect that's on staff did plan accordingly. So I can't say with 100% certainty, but I'm 90% certain that those trees can go in right where we're showing them.
Okay.
If it was a water line, it'd be more like a 50-50, because I've seen water lines do crazy things in my years of...
I was just going to say, if for some reason it doesn't work, you know, we'd like to be asked about it ahead of time, not have it come up as-built review, and then, you know, the trees aren't there. And we've had situations where, and the way we typically word it is, people ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So it looks like an area that, you know, has a reasonable chance of maybe having an issue. So I just thought I would bring that up, that if there's an issue, we understand, but we would rather be asked about it first, not ask
Yes.
for forgiveness afterwards.
So to put a fine point on Mr. Champa's comment, that 10% you mentioned, because you were at 90, if you get into the 10%, you need to come see us.
Sure, not a problem. We'd be happy to have a condition that says that if we need to deviate from the landscaping plan for any construction-related reason, then to notify the planner initially, and then she can decide if it's, you know, if it's one tree, she might say, okay, Patrick, but if it's all of them, then come see the board, something to that
That's
effect.
reasonable. It's a reasonable thought. Everybody's good with that? All right, Mr. Champa, sorry. You good otherwise?
That's all I have.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Future?
The only concern that I have is getting back to the last meeting about the trucks being unloaded. And I know that you clarified the fact that you talked to everybody about making sure they're unloaded within the property. But I'd like to put in a condition that if it does happen, that it has to be discussed again.
Okay.
You're talking on
So-
Roger Street.
Yeah,
Yes.
so, all right, so basically it'll be something along the lines of, you know, if we are notified again of deliveries that are becoming, you know, a problem on Rogers Street, that, you know, we're going to probably call you back in here, and, you know, at that point, you're going to have an issue with us, you know, on your permit if we have to do that. We don't want to have to do that. So that's why we'll put it in so that no one can ask, why are you calling me back in here? We're calling you back in here because we had a nice discussion here in which you said this would stop happening, and it didn't stop.
Yeah.
So if it stops, we never have to talk about it again.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Was that the only one?
That was it.
All right, very good. Mr. Fattalia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Salas, did you work today?
Yes.
You did? Okay. Mr. McCarthy, you mentioned earlier about no trucks on Rogers Street and
Unloading,
none on 38.
Unloading, correct. No car carriers stopping in either right-of-way to unload. They'd have to come onto the site.
Okay.
On Roger Street, correct.
On Rogers or 38?
We've been talking about Roger Street since last conversation.
Yep.
Do they currently unload on 38?
Sometimes we do,
Oh,
but not, we have the carriers pull in.
okay.
But I'm talking about the issues that we addressed last conversation were on 38, on Roger Street.
So, during my travels today, you had a car carrier on 38.
I'm aware, yes.
You're aware of that?
Yes.
It's a hazard. I don't know why they can't pull into your parking lot, because it's a hazard. If you do have that, you should have a police detail, because it causes a very, very big safety issue. I was right behind it today, coming down, and I'm like, why are we having car carriers on 38 with cars having to go by it and so forth and so on? The guy that's unloading your vehicles almost got popped today by a car, and I'm like, it's crazy. You know, it's illegal, first of all, without a detail. So, I mean, you have to find out a way to get those vehicles into your land, into your property, and unload, because it's not safe. I have pictures right on my phone today.
I'm aware. I don't know why they do that.
I don't know either, but I just happened to be driving by. I'm like, and I was right behind it, and I'm like, this is crazy. You know, the car takes up 3/4 of the lane going south, the car carrier. So nobody has any options but to go on the other side of the truck to get around to get it. And you got cars coming both ways. It just can't happen. So I don't know what we can do about it, what you can do about it, but you have to instruct your vehicles to come in to your lot somehow or some way, or else get a police detail when you know they're coming. because it's not safe, you know, and I think you're required to do that. You can't block a lane on 38, or half of a lane.
Yeah, we'll definitely
You have
address
to go
it.
around, so I was sad to see that today, but I was right there. As I came down Roger Street and turned, the car carrier was unloading cars, and I'm like, and I had to swerve to go around them, and cars are going in both ways, so it's something you have to address. Hopefully you will, so we don't have to have you back in here, so, with issues. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set. I'm glad you reduced the building size. Everything looks fine, and hopefully you'll be on your way.
Thank you.
Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the building size was never really an issue with me. I think it was fine in the first place, but you know, that being said, it's a done deal now. But I definitely agree with you know, with the rest of my colleagues here as far as, you know, you're offloading, something has to be done there. And you know, whether it be in off hours or nighttime deliveries, or, you know, there has to be a solution to that problem other than offloading on Rogers or Main Street. Or if that's the only option, like how many deliveries are we talking here in a month, say?
It just happens, depends on who's bringing the vehicle, but we can do the same thing that we did last time. It's inform our carriers. We'll let everybody know. If we have to get a detail, we'll definitely do whatever we need to do to address it. I mean, it's...
Yeah. Detail that prevents one accident, let's say, right? It would be, in my opinion, would be just money well spent. You know what I mean? How long does it take them to offload a truck? An hour, say?
It depends, yeah, if that.
If that, I mean, so you're going to pay some kind of a minimum or whatever, but the bottom line is once you know, you're going to have some help. And you're going to keep your driver safe, the guy that's offloading it. You know, those guys are very vulnerable out there too, that are doing that in all other types of road work. You know what I mean? And there's systems available to you to help prevent an accident from happening like that.
I honestly wish it was unique to this property, but it's something we see. We permitted a lot of car dealerships, a lot of industrial buildings.
We're just talking about this property today, so.
And getting a police detail is, you know, on a day's notice is also not a doable thing, right? It takes time for them to fill the detail. They can't take someone that's on an active shift and reroute them over.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think maybe maybe if you could just plan your deliveries a little differently somehow.
We will,
you know, instead of just having somebody call you up on the phone and say, I'm going to be there in 5 minutes. You know, I mean, that's kind of not a great way to be, you know, from your perspective.
we are going to do everything just the same way that we did last time. If it's a concern of the board, we're going to address it, and we're going to make sure that we continue to be good citizens and good patrons here in town.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so again, I'm going to beat this thing to death, but you know, I think we know it's convenient for the driver. He doesn't want to have to do the turnaround he has to do on site, so he's stopping outside. You have to make it inconvenient for him to do that by telling him and his boss or her boss or whoever it is that that's not acceptable at your site because we've told you it's not acceptable at your site. It's going to cause you a problem, which means you're going to cause a problem for them, kind of thing. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, the Rogers Street was the same thing. That's easy. That's why they did it. You know what I mean? It made it simpler for them. It's just not safe. And 38 with a giant truck, you know, on there just is unsafe and problematic. But for them, it's easier to pull over on the main road, drop the cars, and head right back out on the 38. That's why they're doing it. They got to stop. And that's, I mean, it's the bottom line. You know, we've made it clear here that it's an issue we're concerned about. You're going to have to convey the same to those folks, and then hopefully we, you know, once they're trained properly, that it's just not allowed at your place, then we've solved it here, and it'll be our job to deal with the next dealership that comes in and asks us for something when we have to deal with it with them, you know, to make sure it doesn't happen elsewhere, to your point.
Yep.
But, you know, this is, as Mr. Duffy said, this is the one in front of us right now. You had the extremely bad luck that Mr. Vitale was driving down the road today before your hearing that this happens.
Driving up and down all day. No.
That's what I said. You know what I mean? So, you know, nothing we can do about that, all right?
We understand 100%.
So, you know, if this was tomorrow, you know, but that's not what happened. So, but otherwise, you know, I mean, the site itself, what we're doing here, or what you're doing here, I I've liked it, I like the other version, I like this, I want you to be here, I want, everybody to be a good neighbor. I think I'm the most likely person every time to find a way to get to yes when we have people in here. We want to be yes, but we need, when we ask for something, we need it. We're not asking for no reason, okay? So everybody here has made this one important. We've mentioned the thing about the lighting. These things are important. We've said it. We're putting it in some of the conditions so that it's there, so no one can say, oh, I didn't know, or whatever. We've made it all clear. You're going to get what you want and what you need to make your business successful, and we want what we need to make everybody happy with, that lives around you, and to have you as a successful business in town. So I think we're all on the same page with that. All right, excellent. So with that, I will open it up to the audience, of which there is none. So I will then immediately bring it back to the board, because there are no questions, comments, or concerns. All right, so what is the pleasure of the board at this time?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, so just before we do that, just so we can just check off all these bugs, we went through all the comments, just only because Ms. Lauder just came back in. We went through all those comments. The TEC number 3 and the community development ones about the ADA on the access, we've dealt with that one, and that's being dealt with, correct?
It's on the final plans, yep.
And that's what we got there. And on the others, we were fine with, they left it to us. We're fine with the other comments. Did you have?
Okay, so just for my own clarification, item number 2 from TEC's letter, the board does not have any further comments or concerns, correct? Number 2, which
Correct.
is okay. And then number 3, what is the resolution on that one?
We show the walkway now.
Okay.
To the new side. That's on the plans that Justin sent you last week.
Okay. And this is, so that was TEC's latest comment was they recommend the curb ramp for the public sidewalk driveway crosswalk be added to the plan to ensure compliance. So that's the latest one?
Right.
So is that a site plan dated after April 17th, or is it the April 17th one? Because they based that comment on April 17th.
No. Yeah, these are April 17th. I'm confused by their comment because it shows. There's a separate detail on page 10, maybe they missed it, of the grading.
Okay, and this is in response to the April 22nd letter?
Yeah, so on the 417, they might have just looked at the plan, the grading plan just shows it hatched out.
Okay.
On sheet 10, there's a blow-up with spot grades.
Okay.
On how to get from there to there.
All right, so I will QC that with them. Okay.
5, we were all set. That's the prior site.
Yep.
8 was...
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yep.
And...
9's the same.
Yeah, 9's the same.
Okay.
So-
And
And
then,
then in terms of conditions, what we went over was for...
sorry, one quick
Yep.
question. So on the last comment that I had provided, there were no sidewalks on Rogers Street. Are you going to do the fee in lieu of, or?
Fee in lieu.
That's what DPW is requested from the
Okay, very
previous, that was on the last fall approval.
Okay, that had never been written and codified anyway, so I just wanted to make sure that was correct. Okay.
Yes.
So you're suggesting fee in lieu of, or the DPW?
No, the DPW.
They don't want the sidewalk on Rogers.
Really? Oh.
I'm not surprised. It's a sidewalk to no place.
Well, sidewalk to Main Street, right?
Yeah, but it would just curve onto Rogers and stop, and that would be the end of it.
Sidewalk from no place.
Yeah, from no place, I
From
guess
no
would be a better
place,
way to
yeah.
put it,
There's
yeah.
no sidewalk on there now.
Correct.
Correct.
Besides, we don't want to give any of those trucks something to aim at if they try to park it, by giving them
They'd
a
be pulling
curb.
up on the sidewalk.
Well, I appreciate you guys rehashing that.
So,
Apologies.
and then we've got those conditions that you had, we'll
Yep.
put those in. Mr. Champers was on, if, in the event that there's any issue with the plantings, that they know that they need to come back to us if they have to make any moves on that. The other was on, that we're making a note of the concerns about the Rogers Street parking and the Main Street for the drop-offs, that will stop and they won't be doing that anymore.
And the lighting?
The lighting was just something, we brought that up just because there's lighting on the back, but from a security standpoint. And then the other one was just on that, ensure that the shading and the shields are not allowing the lighting off-site.
Okay, so the lighting just has to be compliant with the
Exactly,
bylaw. Okay,
yeah.
that's
No,
a
no,
part
no,
of-
so the back of the building, we're not showing any lighting, but we want enough lighting so that no one's going back there and doing what they're not supposed to be doing.
Okay.
So
Not
there's
us.
a wall mount
Security lighting.
Talk to the abutter and I called it the good neighbor condition, work with the abutter on what's a suitable level of lighting for that purpose, but not to bother them.
Maybe motion might be one of your options.
The only problem with that is you don't want every critter setting those things off for the
Yeah.
neighbors constantly either. This,
Yeah.
I think a good conversation is the best way to deal with it, and
I
we
agree.
shouldn't have to come back here.
All right, so
Is that
no
everything?
no
That's everything?
unloading.
That's everything.
Does that feel like, all right, that's
So
everything.
no unloading vehicles on Rogers Street.
Yes.
Or Main.
Or Main.
Okay. If the plantings need to be revised, they can come back, and that's also something that can be handled administratively if there's
Which,
no
yeah, we
major
did, yeah,
issue.
we hit that, yeah.
And then coordinate the lighting with the abutters.
Correct.
Okey-dokey.
All
Thank
right.
you, I appreciate it.
All right, so now we have a motion to close. We have a second?
Second.
Motion made second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. First, for the one waiver for section 6.1.10.c. Do we have a motion on that?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the waiver.
All right, we have a motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimous. As to the modification site plan approval, do we have a
Make a
motion?
motion to approve the modification to the site plan approval for 611 Main Street.
All right, with the
Second.
conditions as set out this evening, we have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Good luck.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
All right, I lost one of my pages, but that's fine. All right, that moves us to correspondence. The only correspondence we have is the one that went with this hearing that we just did. That was the only correspondence we had in the package. Other business not known at the time of the posting of the agenda. Any such things that
I have
anyone
one
wishes to
quick
discuss?
item.
Mr.
We
Chairman.
had some nice traction and momentum we were building up on the restoration of the Lee Street house, or the Lee House on Lee Street. We had the owner in here. They had gotten together with the building department, put together a plan to, get the project moving forward again and get it closer to completion. I happened to be driving by it the other day, and the thought popped into my head that it doesn't really look any different than it looked about 6-8 months ago. So I just wanted to know if we could maybe send a letter or, initiate an inquiry as to where are they in the progress of getting that project to what was promised, which was restoring that property was the trade-off for Preservation Lane, if I recall what the initial response was there, so.
To Mr. Champa's point too, like, this is one of the things we were talking about before. Like, we gave something, we asked for something. Now that's being forgotten about, and that's problematic for us. So,
Correct.
Depending on the response, I would like to make it very problematic.
yeah. So the best they understand that, lest they have to come back in here and we have to discuss it louder. Not louder, but louder. All right. Anything else not known at the time of the posting of the agenda? All right. With that, I have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.